What's up? Welcome in on this Friday, Junior, as we get set for another massive weekend in the sports world. And it is Thursday. This is Lunnchtime Live. And who's the new guy? TJ in the fold on Thursdays for most of these Thursdays going forward. So it's a gift to all of you. Again, I keep telling you that we are a show for the people, by the people, and about the people. And I give you gifts and gifts and gifts. TJ, what's going on this Thursday?
Well, I noticed that I remember you sent me something last night about Max Celebrini and a certain pond hockey team. And I believe you were a big winner when I checked the score this morning.
Yeah, the Sharks go into Seattle and absolutely put one on the Kraken. They chase our guy Joey Decord from the game. And, going into the third period, it was 3-1 Sharks. They came out real strong out of the gate, and let's not jump the shark too much, if you will, here. But Macklin Celebrini, we talked about him last night on the program. He is doing things that have never been seen before or have been seen by a very select few. 3 points for him last night. Almost had a fourth on one of the goals that looked like it deflected off his leg, but he didn't. Most points by a teenager in the first 14 games of a season in NHL history, and if you can read that graphic correctly, those are not guys that are just run-of-the-mill dudes that played hockey. We're talking about some of the best of the very best, and the Sharks, yeah, they put one on Seattle, who hadn't been beaten at home in regulation before last night. And, this has been an interesting stretch, and some people think, I throw the Sharks out here just because it's my team. Like, we need to, really kind of take into consideration what this team does. And you and I have talked about it, obviously, ad nauseum. But when you look at what they're doing here, and I think the interesting thing is this little mini stretch where the Sharks have kind of put some things together here is no slouch set of games. I mean, they have a win over the Devils. They have a win over the Avalanche. They lost 3-2 to the Red Wings. And then they go into Seattle last night and put one on Seattle 6-1. They're playing defense. Who knew? What a concept.
That might be the first time and the last time we'll see that on this road trip. But Celebrini's leading the league in points. He's got as many as some dude named Connor McDavid. Don't know who that is.
Yeah, right.
We talked about yesterday. This team is doing everything exactly the right way. Mike Grier is putting on a clinic and acquiring assets and getting the right guys in. And if you do that, you're going to be successful. And this team may be closer than we think to a playoff spot. I'm not saying this year by any stretch of imagination, but they're close. They're getting there.
Yeah, and it was, again, it's last night, Askarov looks at every bit of what Sharks fans anticipated he could look like. Nedeljkovic has really kind of settled in a little bit, and they're playing defense. And, the coolest thing about watching them play, and I said it, I think they will be a pain in the ass to a lot of these teams fighting for a playoff spot at the end of the season here. This little stretch that they're on here, it doesn't get any easier. They've got Winnipeg next. That is a game in San Jose, but after Winnipeg, they've got Florida. Then they've got Minnesota. Then they've got Seattle back in Seattle again. So it's the teams that they play down the stretch that I think should be on a little bit of an alert here. Winnipeg, Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto, St. Louis twice, Edmonton. I mean, these are all teams that Ottawa, Montreal, Boston, these are all teams they play in the last month of the season here. So I don't think that's a team that you're going to want to see. Other hockey news from last night. We kind of talked about it a little bit on the show, but not this part of it. Jordan Binnington is a thief. And maybe Alex Ovechkin wants to press charges. I don't know if you saw this one last night. I saw this later after the fact, but that is Jordan Binnington putting Ovi's 900th goal in his pants, basically. I know that's the only place it's probably secure, but in your pants, And if you're Ovi, you take that back. Like, no, you're good, Jordan. You can keep this. But 900th goal for Ovi last night. It happened while we were on the program. It took a while to get there, T. We were talking about, could he do this in the first week? He finally got there last night. As far as I know, Binnington's given the puck back, but that was pretty funny. Even the ref's like, bro, I know you have the puck. I've been watching the whole time.
He's kind of a combination there between a joker and a jackass. And he had a short night too. So, I mean, go figure. He gave up 4, and they yanked him right out of there. But as long as Ovi gets the puck back, I'm a happy guy.
No, you got Ross checking in. I have never referred to them as Peg Vegas before. You can take that one whichever direction you want to. ESPN, who has failed to get into bed with YouTube TV and fix that problem, has gotten into bed with DraftKings, is now the official betting provider for ESPN. The agreement that ESPN has with Penn ends on December 1st. I guess the ESPN bet platform is going to shift to a, quote, sports betting content brand with DraftKings sportsbook integrations and anchored by ESPN's betting show and dedicated social and digital channels. That comes to an end of a 10-year, $2 billion agreement. This whole thing is kind of weird here, but expect to see a lot more from DraftKings now with ESPN in their programming, but never mind the fact that a lot of people still can't watch most of the ESPN programming right now because most people have YouTube TV.
Yeah, but just use promo code Billups and you can get a power boost on that NBA bets that you put in there, so it's all good, right? This is a joke because you know who loses? You and I lose. That's a complete farce. Get it together, billionaires and billionaires.
Yep.
And the common people lose again.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple baseball notes here before we get into the nuts and bolts of today's program. For the first time ever, we're going to have a head-to-head Saturlay, me versus T, and you can decide which way you want to go. We've also done the math for you if you want to go with both of us. But we have one game that we were on different sides of, and then we'll get into a little bit on Thursday Night Football, Broncos and Raiders tonight. Don Mattingly's leaving his post as the bench coach for the Blue Jays. He was their bench coach and served as the offensive coordinator in 2024 for the Jays. Still amazes me that a guy who's been a lifer in baseball and had the personal success. I'm going to stop right here because of this one. You started this.
My bad.
It still amazes me. It's one of those stats that blew my freaking mind when Mattingly and the Jays went to the World Series that he's never been to a World Series, still doesn't have a ring. There's only one managerial job open, and it's Colorado, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but interested to see if Don Mattingly happens to end up anywhere else. Speaking of managerial positions, the Padres, which sounded like Jace Tingler was going to be the guy, but Jace Tingler and Tony Vitello have a great relationship. Likely that Tingler ends up in San Francisco with Vitello. And the Padres, with uncertainty of AJ Preller's contract status, he's trying to get an extension, and they go and hire Craig Stammen, who has been in their front office for 6 years, which indicates to me, T, we're again catering to AJ Preller here in the situation in San Diego. And as long as this ownership thing, which is still a court battle, is going on, I don't know how much we can trust the Padres to do anything. Michael King is a free agent now. Suarez has opted out. Now you get another of one of Preller's right-hand guys in San Diego. I think, you've said this a lot with the Lakers and what happens with the Lakers when LeBron's not there. What's going to happen to the Padres when AJ Preller's not there is they might actually be able to build something sustainable. This is another I'm going to hire my puppet move by the Padres, and I'm not surprised.
No, this screams of that, and I don't like this team has too much talent and is too loaded to be mediocre. They just are. And there's no way that you're going to get out of this unless you start making changes at the top that need to be made. And that's a change that needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens in that off season there. Shout out to a local squad here. Josh checking in. Sunny Slope basketball out here in Arizona, number 10 in the nation. High school basketball. Sunny Slope, always one of the better programs in all of high school sports, high school hoops in Arizona. But now we're talking about them in the nation. So shout out to the Sunny Slope Vikings there. Vegas Mac checking in with his favorite word of the day. The Padres are frauds. And I wanted to end on this before we get into some college football. Speaking of high school hoops and college hoops and the NBA, USC star Juju Watkins, who is out for the year with an ACL injury, has joined the investing group for the Boston Legacy Football Club. The National Women's Soccer League Expansion Club announced on Thursday. Watkins is the first college athlete to invest directly in a professional women's sports team. We talk about NIL and how it's changed the game and how it's changed loyalties and stuff like that. These are the cool stories, and I'm not saying that Juju Watkins is the only college athlete that's used her NIL money for a good cause, because there's been several of them, but this is really cool to see. Smart move by her going forward, using the money in the right way, especially when she's got the time on her hands this year, because unfortunately she won't see the floor for the Trojans. But these are the good stories I think we need to make sure that get the attention they deserve in an NIL world.
Love this story. Yeah, more power to her. Keep doing what you're doing.
So let's go into what is customary on the program. And as I said, for the first time ever, we've got a head-to-head college football Saturday. And because T is new to the rotation here on the Thursday lunch hour live, I will let you go first. And in your fashion, you are going to start with a game on Friday nights. That'll be an interesting one. Everybody's favorite coach, and according to Josh Pate on their show that he does with the boys, Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, keep an eye on the USC situation and what's going on there with Lincoln Riley with all these moves open. But get us started on the Saturday, SC and Northwestern. What you got?
So I don't think enough people are paying attention to Northwestern's defense. I watched the game against Nebraska, and it was very close throughout. Nebraska couldn't put them away until the very end. They're coming off of a tough one there, but SC is coming off the high of the blackout game and how it was just a huge deal in Lincoln. They finally got a win on the road, which was nice in a key game. So now they come home to face Northwestern on a Friday night. And I just don't think people are paying attention to this Northwestern defense at all. It's 19th in total defense. They're 13th in points allowed. We know what USC's offense is. Maava has been great. The running game has been excellent. In that Nebraska game, they pretty much put the game away on the ground. So, but I expect a little bit of a letdown here for SC coming home Friday night, short week. Northwestern hungry. They're 5-3. A win makes them bowl eligible. And getting 14.5 points, I think that's a great move to take the Wildcats this week.
All right, I'll go to my first one here. It's a game we talked about a little bit last night. Big SEC game as Texas A&M hits the road to play Missouri, who doesn't know how to spell the word road this year. We've talked about this Texas A&M team a lot, and their body of work, and I respect their body of work. The committee obviously respects their body of work, as we saw in the first CFP rankings here. They've got South Carolina and Samford before the clash with Texas at the end of the year. Mizzou's been good, but this is one thing that I can promise you is the Mike Elko team is not going to ever be caught looking ahead. And if this was a night game, I think I might like Missouri a little bit more. Horribly placed time here. It's in the middle of the freaking day. We know Missouri Stadium because every SEC stadium seemingly gets under construction during football seasons. I think if this was a night game, it'd be a little bit tougher test, but I expect the Aggies to absolutely steamroll Mizzou in this one. Mac mentioned it yesterday, freshman quarterback in for the Tigers. So I'm going to lay the 6.5 and take Texas A&M. Let's go to your next one, an interesting one in your favorite conference, the Big 12.
Arizona and Kansas. Arizona, they like to put up big numbers when they win, and they like to give up big numbers when they lose. 69 total points last week in the win at Colorado, 59 total points in the loss to Houston, 60 total points in the loss to BYU. 54 against Oklahoma State. Those are all totals. So I think you know where I'm leaning here. I'm taking the over in this game. It's over 56.5. This is going to be a Jerry Lewis scoreathon.
TJ with the overs. It's as right as rain on this program. This next one, I'm going to get a lot of crap for, but just hear me out. Wisconsin is hosting Washington, and we saw the stats on Wisconsin. Almost $2.3 million in beer consumed at Wisconsin games so far this year, and that only counts August and September. So obviously, to watch this team play, you got to be drunk. I love Damon Williams, quarterback at Washington. This is an interesting spot here because Washington has Purdue, and then they have UCLA before they host Oregon in their big clash at the end of the year, which probably, depending on what happens, and we're going to get to Oregon here in a second, could be a game that maybe determines a playoff spot here at the end of the season, depending on what shakes out over the next few weeks. Wisconsin, I get it. They're putting out moldy cheese kind of football right now, not the good stuff. You're talking about moldy cheese, not the blue cheese. We're talking about old, you got to throw this away cheese. They're bad, but every dog has to have its day at some point. And Camp Randall is a tough place to play. I hope the next coach for Wisconsin is a guy that can get Wisconsin football back to being relevant, because when Wisconsin's good, it's a lot of fun. You're going to give me 11.5 points. At some point, the dog has to have its day. So I am very reluctantly, but confidently at the same time, if that's a thing, taking Wisconsin plus 11.5 points. I think that's a tricky spot on the road. Let's stay in the Big Ten for your next one here. A game near and dear to my heart. Iowa City we go for a ranked matchup, ranked on ranked, Oregon and Iowa.
This is your boy. Your boy Dan Lanning is going into Iowa City. This Iowa team has been god-awful to watch recently, in the recent past, because this team has a great defense, but their offense has been absolute garbage. Well, now they're starting to put together points between Gronowski and Moulton. They are going to run the bejesus out of this ball. And this game also features the number 3 and number 4 defenses in the nation going against each other. So I don't see a lot of points being scored here. I see a knockdown, drag-out fight. And if I'm getting points at home with Iowa, I'm going to take them, all 6.5 of them. Go Hawkeyes.
Mac will have more thoughts on that game as well. That is the Big Mac kickoff game on Friday night, as you saw him just check in. He gave us an epic soundbite at the end of that video that you're not going to want to miss. Plus, I'm going to make it our group text tone message. My third game on this, I'm going to go to the game I'll have some more extended thoughts on Saturday morning. But BYU, 10.5-point dogs at Texas Tech. And we've talked a lot about both of these teams. Baron Morton at quarterback, Bear Bachmeier at quarterback. Both of these teams are interesting. There's already people camping out for college game day at Texas Tech. That's been going on all week here. BYU is gritty. BYU finds ways to win. And a perfect example of BYU to me this year, T, is when they played in Ames against Iowa State. This was a game they were down 24-17 at half. They won 41-27. The Holy War was another one when they played Utah. It was a tough, gritty game. But I think the biggest difference is this BYU team is playing defense like a BYU team we've never seen play defense. Obviously, one of my favorite players in college football, I've talked about him a lot for BYU, linebacker Isaiah Glasker. They're so balanced. They're so deep. Billy V checking in. And it's I still like this spread. I didn't realize how big it was because I, for some reason, didn't look ahead at this one. When you put it down on your liquid lock sheet, I was like, is it still 10.5? It was still 10.5 in a lot of places this morning. LJ Martin also likely back for BYU, which is a huge, huge deal for the Cougars in this one. And all those other teams looking up at BYU, the best thing that they could do is run the table, and then we have a 15-way tie for the last spot in the Big 12 championship game. I like BYU, and if you're going to give me all these points with BYU on the road, I'm going to take them, which leads us to our last game of the Saturlay T. And you know my love affair with this team, especially staying up to the egregious hours of the night watching them. And we're actually on opposite sides of this one as we head to the TC Ching Athletic Complex in Hawaii. Late night, and you need the Mountain West app to watch this one, but if you've got a TV that lets you project it to the TV, then we've got the perfect thing going on. Jesus.
This is yeah, I'm in one
The
right
three
this
eggs
second.
look.
I'm in one right this second. Look, I love the San Diego State team. I'm hoping that the quarterback Jaden Denical can play. He is questionable this week, but I love San Diego State was down for the last couple of years. I think even Nevada beat them 6-0 at Snapdragon a couple of years ago, which is just embarrassing if I can say so myself, and I think I'm qualified to say that. But this San Diego State team is very, very good. They should go to the islands. It's going to be tough early, but I think they pull this out by 10. I am laying the 6.5 on the island with the Aztecs.
Island time is always the right time for me, T. And Hawaii's really kind of started to come into its own. A shootout last week with San Jose State that they came up on the wrong side of. The distractions of the island always come into play. Obviously, San Diego State a little more used to it. Sean Lewis, their head coach, which he has the best hat tan line in all of college football if you haven't seen it right now. The San Diego State defense has been really good, and they've kind of been on a roll since they blasted Cal 34-0. And Sean Lewis, the head coach at San Diego State, has a really good group, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Micah Alejado, the quarterback for Hawaii, has really started to kind of come into his own. And Hawaii's in a little bit of a logjam behind Boise and Fresno, so they got to have this one here. And if you're going to give me over a touchdown with Hawaii at home, I am going to take it because island time is the right time. So we're on opposite ends of the spectrum there. I've got Hawaii plus 7.5. T has San Diego State minus 7.5. So if you put T's together, Northwestern plus 14.5, Arizona, Kansas over 56.5, Iowa plus the 6.5, and San Diego State minus 7.5. That's a plus 1290 if you want to mess around and parlay around with that one on a Friday night. Mine, if you put them all together, Hawaii plus 7.5, BYU the 10.5, Wisconsin the 11.5, and A&M to cover a touchdown, it's a plus 1031. Because we are a show for the people, if you want to just leave out the San Diego State game, since we were on opposite sides, or you can choose your side, choose your fighter, you got to do the math on your own. But if you just drop that and you play the 7 together, if you want to mess around with a parlay, as we say, play them straight, play them together. But if you put them all together without that last game, it's a plus 4284. I checked, and you can boost it up to a plus 5570 on one of your favorite sports books right now. So if you want to mess around, play all 7 of them. If you think we're going to hit all 7, I don't advise it, but it's $5 to get you $283.51. It's not a bad pay, T. It's really not.
You don't even
it covers the whole day.
You don't need a promo code Billups for that one. But I want to give a shout out to San Diego State punter Hunter Green, who is a University of Northern Colorado transfer. He's a junior. He's the son of one of my buddies, Phil Green, who passed away after a tremendous battle with ALS. And Hunter Green is just kicking the bejesus out of the ball. He is second in the conference in net punting. So good for Hunter. He's gone through some adversity this year, and he looks like he's going to come through the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So tune that game on. You download the Mountain. It's great. You download the Mountain West app. It's free to watch the game. And depending on your TV, you can do what I do and just project it up to your TV so you can take it from your phone to a 65-inch TV. You can't lose. Let's move to the National Football League. Always entertaining when the Broncos and the Raiders play. This time we get it on Thursday Night Football. Denver will be wearing their Orange Crush uniforms tonight as they sit in a three-way tie at the top of the AFC with the Colts and the Patriots. Pittsburgh in the 4 spot, Buffalo in the 5 spot, LA in the 6 spot, and their final playoff spot right now would go to Mac's favorite team to love and hate at the same time, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kansas City would be on the outside looking in. We know that this thing with Pete Carroll and the Raiders is going to take some time. We knew that when they hired him, and we saw last week with Brock Bowers back how important he is to that offense. Obviously, when you play Denver, you've got to deal with them on both sides of the line of scrimmage here. First thoughts here on a game that I know is always near and dear to your heart, Raiders and Broncos tonight from Denver.
Well, it's too bad Ronald Curry isn't going to be there because we could sure use him in the silver and black tonight. But this Raider offense, I think you saw last week, with Brock Bowers back, how much different it is, how dynamic it is. Like it didn't even look like the same team that'd been on the field for the last 6 weeks. They looked energized. And yeah, they fed the ball to Brock Bowers practically the entire game. But he's that good and he's that much of a
Mhm.
difference maker, and he's a difficult guy to cover. So that's good news for the Raiders. The bad news for the Raiders, though, is that, and like you said, this thing with Pete Carroll is going to take some time, and it begins with the defense, who they basically let go. Other than Max Crosby, anybody who could make a tackle is gone.
Mhm.
Robert Spillane parlayed that into a big contract with the Patriots. Good for him, but he's gone, and he was super important last year, that linebacking core. I'm very concerned about how the secondary is going to perform tonight, especially with all the weapons that Bo Nix has.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And anytime you've got Max Crosby, you're going to generate pressure. He's going to flush your quarterback out of the pocket. He's still an animal on that defense. If they could ever get him some consistent help on the other side, it's kind of like the same issue that the Niners have been dealing with over the last couple of years with Nick Bosa. It's like getting the right help on the opposite side. Niners have the right help on the opposite side. It's just all on IR right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
what they do in going forward there. But again, it's going to take this Raiders team some time. I was shocked, but not shocked at the same time of the move of Jacoby Myers. I didn't think I had Jacksonville on my bingo card to acquire him this week, but it is what it is. So now it puts more of an emphasis on that two tight end look that Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll like to employ with the Raiders in Mayer and a healthy Brock Bowers. Not only did Bowers have the monster game last week, he had 13 targets also. Now you've got Tyler Lockett in the fold. They signed him after he was released by the Titans. I think Tyler Lockett, from a mentorship position here, you've got a guy in Trey Tucker, who I absolutely friggin' love, who I think having a guy in the building like Tyler Lockett is just going to learn from. All the attention that Bowers draws, all the attention that their two tight end look, and obviously you got to know where Ashton Genty is on the field at all times. Not hard to find him in his Michael Myers stance behind Geno Smith there, as he looks like he's about to terrorize the neighborhood, which if he gets out in the open field, he can. On the flip side, you've got the Denver defense that's been that doesn't break, and they dominate you on both sides of the line. I think the Raiders' offensive line is going to be under a lot of pressure tonight, which is not a good thing for Geno, as he's among the league leaders in interceptions. But again, he did look great, and their whole offense looked great last week. Nick Bonito is a guy I think we need to start interjecting into the defensive player of the year conversation for the Broncos, because he is the anchor of that defense, and he has played fantastic this year. And it's allowed, and we talked about this last week, T, it's kind of allowed Bo Nix to go through some of those sophomore bumps, and we saw it especially early at the beginning of the year. The offense just hasn't looked really good at times, which is crazy because you just mentioned it. So many weapons on that Denver offense.
Yeah, I mean they've grinded a few out lately. The win against Houston was a grind for them. A lot, not what I was expecting out of them. Um, but look, the win against the Giants was a grind. The Jets, like they're not winning these games by a lot, but when you look at the end of the day, they're 7-2 and they're atop the division. So obviously there's some sort of success
Yeah.
going on, and you know the defense does get a lot of the credit for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting tonight. Again, the Broncos wearing their Orange Crush uniforms. I think probably the third throwback uniform I like the most in the NFL. Seahawks have always been one for me. The Creamsicles in Tampa Bay, always two. The Orange Crush uniforms, I think, fit in there perfectly at number 3. I'd have to check with our official Mike Arana show outfit coordinator, Vegas Mac, on what he thinks of the Orange Crush uniforms. But let's get into some picks for the game tonight. Some of the things that we love. Again, our triple option will be out on the show channels at Mike Arana Show everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. That'll be out here in a little bit, but if you're watching the show now, you can jump on them early. We've each got a touchdown score, so we'll save that one for last. T, I'll let you go first. Give me one of your 3 favorite plays for the evening.
I don't have very much faith in this secondary at all for Las Vegas, so I've got Bo Nix 230 yards plus passing tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a safe. Here we go. I knew he was gonna hear it and check it. Solid. That's like that commercial with Kevin Hart and LeBron James for DraftKings, and he's like, it's everything. Oh, is it everything? That's all you got? Or where's Shaq? They're solid. What does that even freaking mean in the Vegas Mac hierarchy?
They're
I'll give you
solid,
my
Orange.
first one. It involves, yeah, it involves the same guy, the same quarterback, Bo Nix for the Broncos. I've got him over 21.5 rushing yards tonight. We've talked about this. The Vegas D has been hit or miss, and the pressure that Max Crosby draws, you're good to get your quarterback flushed out of the pockets two or three times. The Raiders give up 18.5 yards on the ground to quarterbacks, and we've seen both Trevor Lawrence and your guy Waffle House Jesus, Trevor Lawrence, and Patrick Mahomes exceed the number of 21.5 on the ground against the Raiders. Bo Nix is a better runner than both of those guys. So I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities tonight. So my first play for tonight is Bo Nix over 21.5 rushing yards. Give me another play you got. Here we go. Here's the official from Mac with a little more detail.
I would agree with you, Mac.
Romeo Doubs. We're going to talk about Romeo Doubs here in a second because I wonder if we know the real reason why Doubs wears the Guardian helmet after some of his comments on Tucker Kraft this week. Give me your second play, non-touchdown play of the night tonight.
Well, it must be
your kickers.
It must be the mountain air. Denver has the highest elevation in the league, and I'm going to try and play that to my advantage. Got Will Lutz over 8.5 kicking points tonight.
Our idiot kicker. It's got liquored up. That'll still be one of my favorite quotes of all time. I'm going to go with the guy we've already talked about, Brock Bowers. 13 targets last week. No Jacoby Myers. So I think there's two pass catchers that I love tonight, and I'm going to get to both of them here. But Bowers, I've alt-lined him over 60. I've taken him up to 70. Kind of laddered him tonight to 80. I know the Denver defense doesn't give you a whole lot, but I think what you saw last week, and this is something that I think we'll see going forward as the Raiders still continue to form their new identity, is I thought last week Chip Kelly did a really good job at getting Geno on the move, to his right, to his left, short, easy passes, get him in a rhythm, which we've seen when Geno Smith gets in a rhythm is typically when he's the best. So with the addition of that short passing game and Bowers' ability to get out in space and do some things, I like Bowers over his low-end yard total, which you can still find around 64. I like him even as high as 80 despite playing the Denver defense. So Bowers over 60 yards on an alt line is where I'm going to take him there. You've got a touchdown score. I've got a touchdown score. Go first with yours.
Taking Troy Franklin. I mean, he seems to score almost at will lately, and so I've got him on the receiving end of a Knicks touchdown pass tonight.
Yeah, and I think your concerns with the Raiders secondary are on point there. I'm going to look back to the Raiders. Again, I know they're going against Denver's defense here, but I'm going to expect a negative game scripts. I'm going to expect a lot of passes tonight. And I think Bowers being there, the addition of Tyler Lockett to the room, I think Trey Tucker is a guy that we're going to see a lot of attention to. He's already gotten a lot of opportunities this year, almost caught a touchdown towards the end of overtime there. The ball just barely hit the ground. But much like Troy Franklin, I think Trey Tucker is one of those guys that gets a little lost in the shuffle here. So I got Trey Tucker to score a touchdown tonight. I didn't do the math on yours because I'm that kind of friend. Mine, if you wanted to put all three of them together, plus 1,400. I also like R.J. Harvey for a touchdown tonight. I think the way that Denver uses R.J. Harvey, both in the backfield and as a reliable receiver for them, is just another one of those weapons that you talked about with the Broncos. So I also have played that. As well as the ones that we've gone through here. I think despite Denver's defense that I can see a big night out of Brock Bowers. Couple things here to finish up, and we're going to talk about TJ's favorite play, the butt play, in our final comments here. But did you hear our guy Romeo Doubs this week when he was interviewed about Tucker Kraft's injury? Have you heard the audio from this yet?
I've missed the audio. I missed the audio.
So they're talking to him, and Romeo goes, hey, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. And he goes on to say, he's in a better place. Has anybody explained to Romeo that Tucker Kraft didn't die? He's just got an ACL injury, and he's out for the rest of the year? Like it was like when you talk about cringe and awkward, it was about as awkward as it gets. And now I might understand why Romeo wears the Guardian cap, where you can spot him like Super Mario on the field every week. And last week in those fake leather helmet browns that the Packers were wearing, he looked even easier to spot on the field. We love Romeo Dobbs, but I think the message needs to be passed along that he's not dead. Speaking of the Packers, T, obviously the Packers were the ones that kind of got the blame for being at the front of trying to get the tush push outlawed in the NFL this year. I think we saw the play, and we didn't get to talk about this a couple weeks ago uh, when they were playing the Giants. And Jalen Hurts is still trying to fight for a first down, and the ball gets ripped out of his hands by Kayvon Thibodeau. And that play right there is, I think, the singular play that'll get this play banned. But the Eagles and Packers playing on Monday Night Football this week. So, of course, Matt LaFleur was asked about it, and his resounding quote from the butt play in his press conference was, "It is what it is." So a little extra juice on a big game in the NFC on Monday Night Football, and the Packers and Eagles. Do you have any first thoughts on, do you agree that the butt play will be gone next year? And any first thoughts on Packers Eagles, which has a little extra juice?
I'm torn on this play because I think it needs to go away. I don't think it's good for football. But at the same time, when you're playing the Eagles and the Eagles are in that position, you know that it's coming. Your job is to stop it. And if you can't stop it, that's a you problem on defense and not an
Mm-hmm.
Eagle. So I'm torn on this because I don't think the play is very, there's no like strategy behind it really, other than push Jalen Hurts as hard and as fast as you can. But like 70,000 people are going to be in the stadium knowing what's going to happen. Go stop it, defense. Go stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the fact that it's such a hard play to officiate, and again, I hated it for the Giants because that game was still a little. I mean, I think we all know the Eagles were going to run away from the Giants in that game eventually, regardless of what happened. But that play within itself, everybody that's seen the replay of this play, that play shouldn't have been blown dead. They don't know when to blow it dead. They don't know how to watch for a false start. They don't know how to watch for an offside because it's just a giant, hey, let's see who can push harder play. And it is. I think it's a horrible look for football. And it's going to continue to just kind of hang around and be one of those things that it's not a good look. Like the Thursday night game where they ran it 3 times in a row, like it's not a good look. It's not exciting for anybody. It's impossible, damn near impossible for the referees to figure out. So hopefully that's it. But knowing this, I wish you could take a bet on this, because knowing Nick Sirianni, my boy, I bet you they run it on purpose within the first 5 plays of the game. I guarantee you we see it, just because they're playing the Packers and Matt LaFleur and my favorite quarterback in the world, Jordan Love, who gets flowers for doing nothing. Any final thoughts from you on this Thursday? Anything else that you like? I have a hockey bet that I like since I'm on a hockey heater. Any final words for you tonight?
I'm intrigued on your hockey bet because I'm looking forward to watching a lot of it this weekend.
Well, hold on then. We don't need your final words yet. All right, so I was tipped off to this thing. It's apparently called the Vegas flu in betting circles. So anytime the Vegas Golden Knights are playing a home game and they're playing a team that comes in early because they're not off a back-to-back, the trend tells you to lean towards the Knights side because of the distraction of Vegas. These are professional athletes. And as long as Evander Kane's not around, you don't really have to worry about anybody gambling on your team. But Tampa Bay plays Vegas tonight, and Washington and Pittsburgh play tonight. And we know Washington played last night because of the heist by Jordan Binnington and Ovi's 900th goal. So I like a couple of hockey spots tonight, and I don't normally bet the puck line, but in these 2 positions, I like Pittsburgh tonight. We talked about the start that they're on. They get the Caps coming off a back-to-back. I like Pittsburgh on the puck line, -1.5. I also like the Knights on the puck line, -1.5. Do you ride with me on that one tonight?
I will ride with you on that because I think that Vegas. When we looked at the standings yesterday, we saw Vegas up there, but we also saw some unfamiliar names like Anaheim and Seattle up there. but Vegas is the
Mhm.
one that they're built the best. They are going to be there at the end. I think they're just kind of they got their Mark Stone on LTIR now. So that's already taken care of. I think this team's going to start putting it together and start reeling off some wins. I love that pick.
Yeah, plenty of stuff going on. Tomorrow, Lunchtime Live, I'll have some reaction to Thursday Night Football. I have an under bet with 3 divisional games that I absolutely love this weekend. Again, don't like to play parlays super often, but when I do, I like to mess around a little bit for the weekend. And I got 3 unders. I got 3 of the anti-TJs to drop out on tomorrow's show. Also, some thoughts tomorrow on the Ja Morant situation in Memphis. Now that he's been suspended for a post-game exchange with Coach Thomas Isalo after their game against the Lakers. That thing continues to get worse, and we'll set up a little bit more college football, some Friday Night Lights. Now, any final words from you on this Thursday, and welcome to the Thursday Lunchtime Live rotation, my brother.
Yeah, it's been fun, and now I'm going to go eat.
There you go.
Yeah.
If there's any better final words at lunchtime than those, I don't know what they are. So, for everybody behind the scenes, for Vegas, Mac, for TJ, I'm Mike. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk with you later. Thursday, triple option coming up on our social channels. Of course, all of our stuff for the weekend. 5 for 500's back. For TJ.